The U.S. Appeals Court has asked both sides, both parties here, to submit briefs on whether the Trump moratorium should be reconsidered by larger appeals court, a panel there. So we've got a lot of stuff we're going to go through. And of course, there are other major stories today, including President Trump welcoming Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe to the White House this afternoon, reaffirming the U.S. commitment to the defense of Japan, but also vowing to foster a strong economic relationship. And of course, President Trump staying true to form, also vowing that when it comes to trade with Japan, he's going to continue to put America first.
I think the United States is going to be an even bigger player than it is right now by a lot when it comes to trade. A lot of that will have to do with our tax policy, which you'll be seeing in the not too distant future. We'll have an incentive-based policy, much more so than we have right now.
Joining me now to discuss, Mark Serrano, Dave McIntosh, and Adriana Cohen. Adriana, the term incentive, this is what we want, incentives to be here. We've talked a lot about the carrot and stick, but ultimately that's what it's going to be about, isn't it?
It certainly is. And I see a lot of good coming out of this weekend-long meeting that the two world leaders are having. The United States and Japan can create, first and foremost, they need to cooperate with respect to defense. I mean, they need to contain nuclear North Korea, as well as rising China in the South China Seas. But on the economic front, they could potentially create new markets together over the next decade worth, about $450 billion. So there's a lot of economic, opportunities on the horizon, which they will hash out this weekend.
Mark, here's the thing. We know that Abe came bearing a lot of things, right? A potential to invest in infrastructure here. Now, let's be clear. They want to invest in our infrastructure projects in part because they want us to do things like use their high-speed trains. Anyone that's taking the Acela from New York to D.C. may not have a problem if it's only a one-hour trip. I know I don't. But $150 billion over 10 years, 700,000 jobs. What's not to like?
Look, I take that train almost every week, Charles, so I'm with you. I'll take the one-hour trip for sure. But look, Prime Minister Abe is a very, very shrewd player. He understands something that Democrats in the U.S. and the media and globalists don't understand, that Donald Trump is a guy who's willing to do business. Trump recognizes that Japan is responsible for 1 million manufacturing jobs in the U.S. Our trade deficit with Japan is $58 billion. That's nothing compared to the $368 billion we've got with China. He recognizes, to Trump's credit, that the U.S.-Japan relationship is going to serve as a fulcrum against Chinese aggression and expansion throughout that region of the world. So look, Trump is applying 18-hole diplomacy. By the time those guys hit the ninth fairway, they probably will have negotiated a new bilateral trade deal tomorrow afternoon. This is very good politics and good for the U.S.
Speaking of which, David, during the campaign, then candidate Trump talked a lot about Japan and other countries where we have a large military presence, paying for those bases, pulling their own weight. But then we saw where Mattis, his first stop was Korea, second stop Japan, refocusing on the notion that we better send China a strong message, not just economically, but militarily, particularly with those South China Sea man-made islands that are now being militarized. How important is that with respect to the overall idea of getting some sort of economic plan, the fact that we have now recommitted to the safety of the Japanese people?
Oh, I think it's a huge commitment. It makes enormous sense for us in economic terms as well. They're an incredibly important trading partner, as was just mentioned. Unfortunately, the Pacific Trade Agreement fell apart, but President Trump has said he wants to do that over again as bilateral agreements. More power to him. We need to reinforce that. We need to secure Japan, and we shouldn't incentivize them to pick up a lot of military.
Let me ask you on this, David, because there's still a lot of folks out there who don't like these trade agreements. They don't like the globalistic aspect of it and the idea that we've lost big time with the ones that exist currently. We do have a pretty big trade deficit with Japan vis-a-vis everyone except China. And it's tough for us to sell into that country. What will we need from them in order to open up their markets to us as we ride their high-speed trains from New York to D.C.?
Yeah. I think we take advantage of the things they offer. You know, Mitsubishi does a great job on those heavy industry infrastructure projects.
How do we make them
right.
open their markets?
We push them really hard. We've not done a good job of opening up the agriculture markets over there. And so I like the idea that President Trump will be negotiating to say we need to have more access as we give you access to our markets.
Yeah, Adriana, I think we sell like $30 billion a year in soybeans to China. Why can't we do the same with Japan? So this I think is absolutely amazing. I think we should remind the audience as well that Abe came to visit President Trump at Trump Tower. And when he came down off that elevator, the golden elevator, his demeanor was such that we saw it reinforced today. These guys embrace each other, and not just as world leaders, but almost as friends who understand that they want to help their countries, but they have a certain kind of respect. And it didn't come from bowing. It came from a position of strength.
Yes, mutual strength. And one area where the United States can have economic growth is by exporting more energy to Japan. And Japan is open to that, especially after the 2011 Fukushima disaster with their power plants. I think that now that President Trump is going to drill, and there's an opportunity there to export more energy to Japan.
That is a fantastic point. Cheniere Energy, LNG, almost close to being able to export liquid natural gas. Natural gas, we get it here for about $3 a unit. In Japan, it costs $18, $20, and they have sworn off nukes. So Mark Serrano, we've got an amazing situation here with a country that I don't remember, to be quite frank with you, President Obama doing much with Japan at all, pro or con. It's an important area of the world. It's probably going to grow. That whole Asia area is going to grow faster than the rest of the world for the next 50 years. It's really a brilliant move, and the timing is perfect to get the parameters straight on how we could take advantage.
Donald Trump is practicing the art of relationships here in ways that President Obama just didn't have the gift, the natural ability to pull off at all. You know, Obama didn't seek relationships like that. I mean, you remember in his first tour of Asia, all he was doing was sort of bowing, and because he wanted to bring the United States down a notch. Instead, we've got an equal partner. I mean, Japan is crucial for the global stability from a security standpoint, but also from an economic standpoint. Donald Trump is demonstrating a redefinition, Charles, of the presidency. He's using his own skills as a deal maker, and he's changing the entire paradigm globally. And it starts with Japan. This is very, very significant, and I look forward to hearing what they will have accomplished tomorrow on the golf course, because I'm telling you, they will be cutting deals for industries to perform better in the Japanese marketplace.
You know, David, on that note, President Trump now is saying, okay, we're going to honor and we recognize one China. You know, this is a big kerfuffle after being elected and calling, you know, the other China, if you will. Does that also now smooth things out to the point where this president can now negotiate with China and get some things done? I think the message was heard loud and clear. Some people think of it as perhaps the president blinked, but ultimately, if we're going to deal with our largest real economic adversary, I think the smoke had to clear on that.
You know, Charles, it was good they had the call. I actually link that with the fact that Prime Minister Abe is here today. The Japanese Prime Minister realized he had to finally take the president's call because we're going to be allies with Japan, and he needs to be able to negotiate with President Trump. So it wasn't a position of weakness. It was a position of strength where he leveraged the good meetings he has today and tomorrow with Premier Abe and got a call back from the head of China.
So here we are, Adriana. We're seeing this play out, and I guess what's even more fascinating, if you want to add the fascinating element, it plays out in real time. We're seeing it. It's not behind closed doors. It's like it's right in our faces. And momentarily, we're going to show video. In fact, we've got it. Let's take a look.
Are you comfortable?
Talk about some things you said.
Some what?
Some of what you said in the press conference.
Sure.
You spoke about you going to win this court battle against the immigration and travel ban.
We'll win that battle.
You also talked about
The unfortunate part is it takes time statutorily, so it takes a little time. We'll win that battle. But we also have a lot of other options, including just filing a brand new order on Monday.
Are you planning to do that? Is that your plan?
Could very well be. But I like to keep you, I'd like to surprise you. We need speed. for reasons of security. So it could very well be that we do that.
What are some of the changes that you're looking for?
Very little, just in honor of the decision. We will perhaps do that. We'll see, but on Monday or Tuesday.
You talked about new security measures. Is that separate from potentially writing a new?
We're going to have very, very strong vetting. I call it extreme vetting, and we're going to have very strong security in our country. We are going to have people come into our country that want to be here for good reasons.
Sorry, Mr. President, what do you make of reports that General Flynn had conversations with the Russians about sanctions before you were sworn in?
I don't know about it. I haven't seen it. What report is that? I haven't.
Post is reporting that he talked to the ambassador to Russia before you were inaugurated about sanctions, maybe trying to.
I haven't seen that. I'll look at that.
Mr. President, what is your response to the Iranian president who earlier today told people that any nation that threatens the nation of Iran is going to regret it eventually?
You better be careful. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I missed that part on. What was the last one you asked?
There you have it, guys. Ending with the ultimate exclamation point, pushing back on Iran, which, let's face it, guys, Iran
Charles,
they've had a run at the table, right? We've had this reckless approach to them, and they have been so belligerent, and so they're going to test President Trump, but every time they do, they get those kind of swift,
Charles, I got to point something out to you. Look how the left demonizes this man, and yet look at how presidential he is. From the moment he set foot on ground in Mexico City during the campaign, way back then, he demonstrated an appeal and an ability to command. He's very presidential, and yet he's been demonized by the left, and it's ridiculous. People will come to realize. Look at his appointments to his cabinet with conservatives he's appointed in the Supreme Court. Everyone will just get over their hysteria eventually and recognize this man is presidential and he has America's interests at heart.
David, I think what will help people get over their hysteria, if you will, ultimately will be the economy doing better.
That's
listen,
right. When it starts growing and jobs.
There are a lot of people out there, and you may be bitter, you may be worried, you may be afraid for a variety of reasons, particularly if you watch mainstream media. But if you start to get a fatter paycheck, if you get that long-awaited raise, if you find out that your home is worth more, that's something that will wash away any of the bitterness, except for a core group of people who will never change.
That's right. And now he's got his team in place at Justice and more of the agencies. They're going to be able to get these things done and out and do it carefully so they don't have any mistakes.
It's so funny, Adriana, because Mark got offended with the media. We know the gotcha questions and all that stuff is coming, but think about now with with the Sean Spicer pressers and broadening out the media to folks like you and others. Hey, this is how you counteract that, isn't it?
Oh, it certainly is. It's brilliant that the White House is allowing, outlets from all over the country now to Skype in a few days a week, because then you're going to see news presented a lot differently. And the mainstream media is not going to have this monopoly on information and on political narratives like they've had for decades. And so we're seeing definitely a big change in the media landscape thanks to Donald Trump. And it's long overdue.
Long overdue, guys. Thank you all very much. And we're talking economics. Well, next, President Trump teases that